I'd be willing to bet that most players remember the Shivering Isles for its craziness. The garish colors, the literally insane NPCs, and the cheese parties.
Wait! Scratch that! Cheese for no one!
It's one of the most iconic expansions Bethesda ever made, and definitely the weirdest. But behind the absurdity lies something far more profound. One of the most meaningful endings Bethesda has ever written. One that reframes everything Oblivion was trying to say, not just about fantasy or fate, but about godhood, identity, and the eternal return. Because while the main game ends with you crowned champion of Cyrodiil, the true final act doesn't take place in the Imperial City. It takes place in a realm cut off from time, where madness governs reality, and where your hero's journey doesn't conclude, but goes beyond. The Shivering Isles isn't just a fun nonsense bonus DLC, it's the narrative end of Oblivion's world, and maybe its truest one. A world where you don't just serve a god, you become one, where meaning dissolves and reforms endlessly, where death leads back to birth, and where the player's identity becomes inseparable from the daedric realm they inhabit. In this video, we're going to explore how the Shivering Isles transforms Oblivion's hero myth into something stranger and more complete. It's not just an epilogue, it's a revelation. One that takes Oblivion's shining world of order and turns it inside out, showing how a nobody in an imperial prison can defeat evil in the name of good, and then renounce it all to go beyond. In his seminal work, The Birth of Tragedy, the philosopher Nietzsche wrote of two primal forces that shape art, myth, and human consciousness. The first being the Apollonian, which is known as a force of order or reason. Some examples of this would include art or human knowledge, making sense of things in the world. And the second is a Dionysian force, which is chaotic and full of vitality. Some examples of this would be partying, or even comedy, poking fun at something and destabilizing an idea. In the Shivering Isles, these forces are incarnated. Jyggalag is the Apollonian Daedra, a being of pure logic and inevitability. His realm is sterile, his armies precise. He sees the unpredictability of life as a flaw to be corrected. Sheogorath, by contrast, is pure Dionysian energy. He doesn't simply embrace madness, he embodies the creative force of contradiction. He's not just chaos for its own sake, he's chaos as vitality, as meaning born from rapture and despair, vitality itself. The Grey March, this endless cycle of Jyggalag rising, destroying, and being reabsorbed into Sheogorath, is the eternal struggle between these two principles. Order crystallizing and structuring chaos, chaos dissolving order, over and over again, ad infinitum. But Oblivion doesn't force us to pick sides, it asks us to become the thing that transcends this very cycle. You don't kill Jyggalag forever and remove it from the equation, and you don't destroy Sheogorath either. You become Sheogorath, a new Sheogorath, with knowledge of the pattern that came before. This is Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, not a conqueror or tyrant, but someone who creates meaning in a meaningless world. Someone who affirms existence not by escaping to absurdity, but by reveling in it. And yet, the champion of Cyrodiil is tasked with changing it. By becoming Sheogorath, the champion of Cyrodiil embodies the contradiction that neither god could resolve alone. The champion of Cyrodiil is both order and chaos, reason and madness, torn between these two. And yet, the champion of Cyrodiil chooses to act anyway to stop the Grey March. This isn't a fall into insanity, it's a metaphorical ascent, a rebirth. In my opinion, it's one of the most ambitious ideas Bethesda ever slipped into a DLC. The idea that godhood is not domination, but authorship. The champion of Cyrodiil inherits a cycle of destruction and chooses to write something new. Now, Nietzsche didn't simply frame his understanding of Apollonian and Dionysian forces as a battle of equal and opposite contradictions. He understood them as complementary forces that contrast and require one another, just like the idea of Yin and Yang in Taoism, if you're more familiar with that. Not enemies, but complements, light and shadow, movement and stillness, death and life, each containing the seed of the other. In the Shivering Isles, these contradictory and complementary forces aren't just abstract, they're geographical, they're metaphysical even. The realm is literally split in two: mania, a realm of ecstatic brilliance and creative impulse, and dementia, a place of brooding paranoia and decay. But neither is good or evil, neither is also whole without the other. Just like yin and yang, mania and dementia interdepend on one another. Creativity without reflection becomes manic destruction. Paranoia and sadism without inspiration rots into nothing but destruction. It is only through their tension that the Isles and Sheogorath himself stay balanced. This is why Sheogorath demands the champion of Cyrodiil serve both mania and dementia, to grasp the necessity of contradiction before ascending to mad godhood. And this is key. Sheogorath isn't crazy because he defies logic. He's crazy because he embodies both sides of a deeper truth. He is paradox incarnate. He knows that meaning is only found through contradiction. Jyggalag completes Sheogorath by refusing what he embodies, paradox. In rejecting contradiction, he becomes its inverse, and thus its mirror. As such, Sheogorath and Jyggalag perfectly embody the concepts of yin and yang. As much as Sheogorath destabilizes, contradicts, and muses, Jyggalag must intellectualize, predict, and control. The hero of Kvatch is continually reckoning with these paradoxical yet complementary forces in the Shivering Isles themselves, when it comes to gaining new understanding of the world and their place within it. The madness of the Shivering Isles isn't chaos for chaos's sake, it's a mirror of the world's truth, that harmony isn't stillness, it's a dance between opposites. And in becoming Sheogorath, the champion of Cyrodiil chooses not to reject this dance. They become it. In the end, the champion of Cyrodiil doesn't escape the cycle of the Grey March. They reshape it. They don't flee from madness, they create through it. The Grey March ends not with resistance, but with transformation. The Grey March is a cycle, endless, predictable, and absolute. Jyggalag returns, the Isles fall, and then it all begins again. But what if the point isn't to escape the cycle, but to embrace it? In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche imagines the ultimate test, the eternal return. The idea that every moment of your life, your joy, your suffering, everything that happens to you, must be lived over and over again eternally. Would you curse this cycle? Or would you go again and again with the same enthusiasm as the last? By mantling Sheogorath, the champion of Cyrodiil doesn't destroy the Grey March. They accept it and transform it. The curse may have ended, but the cycle persists. Only now it becomes something new, not through resistance, but through acceptance with authorship. Now, before you start typing in the comments, it is clear from the narrative of the Shivering Isles that Jyggalag and Sheogorath are no longer doomed to be contradictions within the same body, and in that way, the Grey March has literally ended. However, they become two contradictory yet complementary entities that will enact the cycle of structure and chaos in a perpetual and constant dance. The hero, now becoming Sheogorath, no longer acts crazy because they are compelled to by some curse. They act because they choose to. That's what makes them a true new Daedra. Not the power of the mad god, but the will to create a new meaning in a world that always returns. This is Nietzsche's vision of Übermensch fulfilled. Not a hero who escapes fate, but one who embraces it completely and still chooses to celebrate their existence time and time again. Most myths end the same way. The hero triumphs, the world is saved, and the sacred order is restored. Evil is cast out, and the cycle continues, whole and unbroken. Oblivion seems to follow this pattern. You end the Oblivion crisis, the gods are honored, The Empire survives with a newfound appreciation for the sacred through Martin's sacrifice. The sacred has prevailed over the profane. But the Shivering Isles goes further. It doesn't end with restoration, it ends with transformation. Instead of returning home, the champion of Cyrodiil crosses a threshold few myths dare to touch. They leave the world of order behind. They descend into madness, not as a way that ruins them, but initiates them into something more. And they emerge not broken or lost, but reborn. The Shivering Isles isn't a tragedy. It's not even a descent into insanity. It's the story of a mortal who accepts the contradictions of the world and becomes strong enough to shape them. When the champion of Cyrodiil mantles Sheogorath and becomes the new mad god, it's not an identity death. It's an elevation of the character. Where the world offered only cycles of violence and order, they chose something stranger and more hopeful. A path where freedom is found not in control, but in creativity, in the will to power that creates meaning where there was none before. Most games let you just save the world. Oblivion lets you go beyond it. And the Shivering Isles shows what happens when you do. Because maybe chaos isn't the opposite of meaning, maybe it's the fertile ground from which all meaning grows. Thank you so much for watching.